So let's talk Champions Cup, round of 16. Now, normally I only do videos on international rugby, and I said in my last video I'm going to start branching out, so I'm going to get into it. I watched these games, they were super exciting. Now, for me, it's the quarterfinals where the Champions Cup really starts, because that's where the big boys start meeting. This round of 16 was good, it was interesting, but I wanted to answer a different sort of question. And in the media, we had thrown at us quite a lot that the English clubs were looking good, they were competitive in the Premiership, really good games. Could they be coming back to a powerful position like when Saracens won the Champions Cup, or Exeter? Of course, Saracens broke the salary cap to get there, but that's by the by. Are the English clubs coming back? And we had a lot of English clubs in action over the weekend, so I thought that's a good place to start, something a bit different. So let's get into it, starting on Friday with Harlequins versus Glasgow. 28-24 to Harlequins. They nicked it at the end. It was a really close game. Either side could have won it. And, styles make fights, as they say. And these two guys had very similar styles. They'd never met before. But it made for a great game because they both want to play really fast. So Harlequins could play their way. Glasgow could play their way. Players like George Horn, Rory Darge, Tuipulotu for Glasgow could pull all the strings, get all around the pitch, and Marcus Smith and Alex Dombrandt could look great for Harlequins. Does it mean that Harlequins are going to win the Champions Cup? That is the question. I'm not sure, because are the big teams going to let Harlequins play this way? I'm not sure they will. Hopefully they can do it, but I've just got a feeling that Harlequins could get done over with a power game, with a size game as well, which Glasgow didn't really do to them. I mean, players like Marcus Smith, they look $1 million in this game, and I'm a big Marcus Smith fan, and we saw his strengths here, his sidesteps, his creation, his vision, making those 2-on-1s. He scored his great sidestepping try. Dombrandt was going around, making breaks, those sorts of things. So could they go all the way? I'm kind of thinking no, because I don't think they've got the power game, but hopefully I'll be proven wrong. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me there, but I'm always excited to watch Harlequins. Then on to the all-English affair of Exeter versus Bath, 21-15 into a howling gale, and both sides actually played better going into the gale, which was really weird. But anyway, Exeter came strong in that second half, Bath looking good in the first half. And yeah, they came through with a homegrown bunch of talent, and they've brought in some talent from Wales as well. We know they've got Jenkins, they've got Schwinzer, Hawkins wasn't playing, but they've got a young group of Welsh players and a young group of English players, the likes of Tuima, Faye-Wabusu, of course, and they can get them on fairly cheap contracts, and it's going to be a bit nasty when they have to renew all those contracts, and those guys are actually stars, but for now, it works quite nicely. We'll see where it goes. Can they develop over the years, or can they do it now? I mean, in that first half, Bath were looking the better team. They were looking probably more balanced with the likes of Underhill, getting over the ball. They had Barbary, the ball carrier, Ted Hill, who's the all-rounder with the speed. We saw him speed away for a try, but then get injured again. And that's my fear with Ted Hill getting into England, that he's just going to keep getting injured. And they were looking pretty good. Another question there as well, talking of English players, is we had Will Stewart on the bench because Thomas Totoy is actually a better tight head than him. So having Stewart as your starting English tight head when he can't even be the best tight head in Bath is a bit of a problem, but we're not talking about English tight heads here. The Russell injury didn't help. It was definitely a day for the forwards, and then Exeter came back into it. And Exeter, they are a workmanlike team, and that's not a criticism, that's just the way it is. You look at the front row of Co Yendall, Painter, they're not world-class athletes as such, but they are reliable, they are going to bash away. Tuima's a big lump. Jenkins, I know he's only young for Wales, but he is a grafter really, that's kind of his game. Roots just bangs all day, he makes so many carries. Schwinzer the same, second row playing 7. And the one athlete, really, the all-round athlete, is Vincent there. And then, of course, Fizalou when he comes on as well. So have they got enough balance? I don't know. When they get close to the line, they bang away, which is okay. But luckily, in the backs, they do have a firecracker in Faye-Wabusu. He was phenomenal. From a standing start, he slips through players, he works off his wing so well, he is absolute class. Woodburn does something similar, but he's not on the same level as an athlete as Faye-Wabusu. Hodge will be good, he's got that pace, but still not quite the reliability, I'd say. So they're a good team, they bang away hard, they did enough here. Now, the impact off the bench was good, but do they have enough quality? Do they have enough skill and variation to beat one of the big teams? I don't know. They need to play at home, I would say. Kept Faye-Wabusu on the ball as much as possible. So they're a good, honest, hard team who I think will get better and better. but I don't think they're near their peak yet. So could they win a quarter-final? Maybe, but again, I don't see them getting much further, so I'm saying no, but again, tell me if you disagree. Then we had Saracens, who have looked fairly decent in the Premiership, and this was a good comparison with a team that could well win the whole thing in Bordeaux. They panned Saracens 45-12, embarrassing in the first half. They come back a bit in the second half to Saracens, but they're outclassed completely. Size-wise, power-wise, skill-wise, speed-wise, they're completely outclassed. A bit embarrassing for the English teams there for sure. And when you look at the teams, you can kind of see it. The front row for Saracens, these are players who have been there, done it, but they are in the back end of their career. They started with Vunipola, George Judge, Atoje and Tizard. Not particularly dynamic up front. They didn't start Dan, which maybe could have helped potentially. Atoje looks better when he's got a real athlete alongside him, but they played McFarland in the back row. They left Gonzalez on the bench. Vunipola is a big hitter, but he's not dynamic, he's not quick. So that pack couldn't outmuscle them, then they don't have the speed. And the back line for Saracens, again, experience. There's players there who are good players, but who's going to make the big breaks? No one particularly. But then if you look at Bordeaux's backline, it is phenomenal. Garcia had a great game at 10, but then those wingers, Pinot and Biel Barry, the best wingers in France. Deportier is going to play a lot of games for France in that 13 shirt, I am sure of it. Burris was amazing at 15. Mofana, we know, is a solid international, and they were class. They're a little bit of a throwback team where they have big bully boys up front, then absolute class in the back, and it was far too much for Saracens, 45-12. Not even close. Bordeaux do look like a championship quality team, that is for sure. And Saracens are one of the better English teams when they can get everyone out. They were missing Owen Farrell, which would really help in that sort of physical matchup. Alex Good was trying to create and do cute things, but really was just getting blown away. Doesn't carry that physical threat that maybe Farrell does. Nothing was really working for him. So yeah, it was embarrassing for Saracens, absolutely panned. Of the weekend so far for an English side, 22 points Leicester got, but Leinster got 36, and they never really looked like losing, but this was kind of as good as Leicester can play, and they're a solid team, they're a well-drilled team, but Leinster are a class apart, and that kind of says where the English clubs are. I mean, Leicester started with great intent, you know, the likes of Visa, bashes all day, Pollard is a class 10, that is an area where Leicester are stronger than Leinster. I'm not convinced by the Burn boys at the top level compared to someone like the double World Cup winner Pollard, but when you compare certain areas of the team like the back row, I mean, the Leicester back row was so hard-working. Liebenberg, Cracknell, Weiser, they're all direct, they're all physical, but there's no real magic there, to be honest. And if you look at Baird, Van der Fleer, Doris and Conan coming on, absolute class, just amazing magic there. Baird, what an athlete he is. When is he going to start for Ireland? Is it going to be this summer? That's going to be exciting. Leicester actually executed some pretty good gameplay, but Gibson Park gets a hat-trick. Some of the interplay is amazing. The way that they study other teams like Ireland do, because Leinster kind of are like Ireland, is amazing, where they literally pick teams apart. There was enough class there, an intercept from Henshaw, that sort of thing. It gets it done. Leicester, come back with a nice maul. They've got some good standard plays like the maul. Hassel Collins butchers a 2-on-1, which maybe shows up why he isn't an international anymore. Just those sorts of things where Leicester are a good team, but maybe with workman-like players, and Leinster are a great team, even though I think they'll think that's not a good enough performance to win the Champions Cup. They still dismiss an English Premiership side probably playing as well as they could play. So the last game of the weekend involving an English team was Northampton versus Munster, 24-14, an absolute cracker of a game. I think before this game I'd have said that Northampton were the best all-round team in the Premiership, and afterwards I think you'd say the same. But the question of this video is, are Northampton good enough to go on and win the Champions Cup? So we'll come back to that, but let's get into this game in a bit more detail, because I think it was actually the best of the weekend involving an English team. An absolute cracker, because both sides play an all-court game, which is interesting because, of course, traditionally Munster, in Europe as it was then, did very well, but they played a very direct game, a very forwards-orientated game. They were very well known for it and very successful as well. But they've changed completely. Graham Rowntree has got them playing all over the park. They're not just chucking it around for the sake of it. It's very balanced, which is very similar to what Northampton do, and I really like this as a way of playing rugby because you see every side of the game. Now, Northampton have quality in their team, but I would say it's spread fairly evenly, which isn't a bad thing, but there aren't those absolute superstars. I do think there's superstars maybe in the making. What I like about this team is there's lots of young English players who are just coming into international recognition or soon to be. The likes of Curtis Langdon, again, had a really good game. He was a guy that I wanted in the England squad before he got banned, I think it was. And I think for now he is the third choice English hooker for sure behind George and Dan. So hopefully he stays fit and he goes in the summer because he really is that good. He had a brilliant game. Finn Smith, we know all about, the up-and-coming 10. We saw him in the Six Nations. And in this game, I'd say it's his defence that actually impressed me the most. Tommy Freeman really got involved, made some good breaks, and Ollie Slightholme has got some express pace as a winger, and some big grafting as well by guys like Graham, Augustus, Odendahl. They're the grafters that make the game work, and I've said before that English teams do rely on players from abroad, say, to come in and play 12, be that power carrier, and maybe it's blocked English players playing 12, or maybe they're not there, but the likes of Odendahl was very important. We've seen Cater do that, Esterhazen as well, so in the Premiership we know there's a lack of big 12s, and this game highlighted it once again. Now Munster will be disappointed in themselves in this game because they could have won it in the first half. They had lots of pressure. Their ruck contest was really good, so Northampton got in good positions, but they didn't get a lot of phases going, and that's an area where Northampton need to improve in securing their ball. But 40-0 on the hour, it was really close until the deadlock was broken, and it seemed to coincide with the subs coming on. Alex Mitchell, England's best 9, their starting 9, wasn't starting because of injuries, coming back from injury, and he made a massive difference alongside George Hendy, and we'll talk about him more in a minute, but he finishes a really good try to take the lead. They could have gone ahead, but Finn Smith scuffs a really bad kick into the wind, and kicking is normally his thing. But for Munster, in that second half especially, too many errors, and Hendy reaffirms why I think he is a good shout for England. And I've said it before, I'm not just saying it off this game. I think I might have been one of the first media guys, certainly on YouTube, to say Hendy should be in the England squad before he picked up an injury. Go back and watch the video if you want. I don't know if I can name which one it is, but I definitely said it. And I'll say it again here. Hendy as a fullback is a great option. 21. He's so quick, he's strong, his skills are good. Don't really see a weakness in this game, and maybe he's a better all-round player at the moment than young Josh Hodge, who's the other guy we're talking about. And Northampton's last 20 really made that difference. Their scrum was good as well. Their pace really picked up, like I said, when those subs came on, and they were deserved winners, Munster making those mistakes at the end. So I think Munster were second best, but only just. It was a cracking game, and definitely Northampton the best English team at the moment. So let's look at these quarterfinals, and this is where we'll find out how good these English teams really are, because even though these last 16 games were exciting, they weren't up against the big boys, and here we have 3 very big boys. Harlequins are facing Bordeaux away. I mean, goodness me, this game is going to be box office. 2 cracking sets of backs in this game, but the size of those Bordeaux forwards are formidable. I don't know if Harlequins can deal with them. It's going to be exciting, but Bordeaux big favourites. If Harlequins pull that one off, it's a huge upset. But you know, I would say Harlequins maybe will get a bit found out up front, especially there. Then Northampton, the best English side left in it, as I've described, but they're against the Bulls, one of the best sides in the URC from South Africa. Crazy powerful, loads of pace as well. It's going to be tough, but they are at home, so I do give Northampton the best chance, even though they are up against one of the big boys. That's going to be amazing. Can they hold their own up front? Hopefully they can. The scrum looked good today, and they do counter-attack well, do Northampton, and I like the English players, the young English players in that side, but this will really find out how good they are. And then Exeter are going away to Toulouse, and they probably are going to lose, excuse the pun, but you have to say it because Toulouse are that good. Any team with Dupont in is going to be that good, and Toulon have loads of great players anyway. So at the end of this quarterfinals, we could have no English sides there. If any of them win, I think it would be a massive win for them. How good are England in the Champions Cup? Well, I think they're okay. After the quarterfinals, we'll really know, but if you were to push me, I'd say we'd probably lose all the English teams in those quarterfinals. So the English talent is spread fairly evenly over the Premiership. Not enough concentrated stardust. Maybe they don't have the money. Maybe the talent's not there. I don't know. But a lot of very good sides. But I don't think they're there to rival the likes of Bordeaux, Toulouse and Leinster. Anyway, that's my take on the English sides that were in the last 16 of the Champions Cup. Like I said, my first foray into videos on the Champions Cup. If you like that sort of thing, please do like the video, subscribe. That would be amazing. Pop those comments below, and I'll catch you next time.